Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Retro Gamers Podcast, episode number 189. We're closing in on that 200. Anthony here, and conspicuous by his absence, Larry is not with us today. He had better things to do this week, so we please share the hate online for him missing this episode. No, I'm just kidding, of course. But Larry could not be here today. But as always, my resident temp co-host has decided to step in. Rich, how you doing?
All righty. What does Larry have to do other than this right now? We're in a pandemic. There's not much you can do.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, he had plans. That's what he told me. He said he had a bunch of stuff going on this weekend. Yes. I don't know. I honestly don't know what that means, and I don't want to pry because I'm kind of afraid of what the answer would be.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, but hey, his loss, your gain, my gain.
There you go.
It's been a while since you've been on the show. How have you been?
Yeah, been good, man. Been like a lot of us, just been playing a lot of games and just trying to find stuff to play online with you and other people. Just gaming has taken a whole different twist to it since this, since we've had it to shut down.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, I've been gaming way more than I usually do, and that's actually saying a lot because I pretty much game a lot anyway. But yeah, and also what's cool is that I got to introduce you to one of my favorite current games right now, which is Dead by Daylight.
Which, by the way, I have to say that was a lot of fun playing that.
Yeah,
it was a lot more fun than I was anticipating it being.
Yeah, and it's just kind of the horror background to it is always awesome, because we're both horror fans, and but just on top of it, yeah, like it's a little bit chaotic, because every match you don't know what's going to happen because you get a different killer and obviously different players and stuff like that. So so it's always challenge. Every match is challenging in a different way depending on who the killer is and how they act.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is really cool. And then I got to get you. I don't know. Have you played Friday the 13th? I don't remember if you said
I have. Okay. But I have it for Xbox. You have it for PS.
Right. Well, I have it for both. I just have abandoned my Xbox lately.
I don't have Live anymore.
There you go.
But the one thing I do have that I want, I saw it was on sale for like $5, and I really should have picked it up. But I that goes on sale all the time, so next time I got to pick that up for the
you'll have no problem finding that on sale. You definitely won't. But yeah, so it was really fun. Gaming with you, especially on DVD, which is cool. And obviously, I want hope you come back to play some more, which will be nice.
Oh, hells yeah.
Yeah, you can always catch me playing it almost every day. But for this week's episode, I thought there was something like, I was trying to think of something kind of general that we can talk about that we both have some experience in, and something that in 189 episodes maybe we haven't zeroed in on or covered, because we've covered a lot of stuff on this show, a lot of different retro topics, current topics, and things like that. But this is one I don't believe Larry and I have covered, and I'm sure he's going to be jealous that he's missing
his was our game.
Exactly. Missing this episode. But I wanted to talk today about franchise favorites. Ooh. So, and to be specific, we're talking about any video game franchise that you've played. And when we say franchise, we're talking about they've released multiple games. We're not just talking about single, one game came out and that was the end of it.
Right.
But there's one very important rule to this, and it's a rule that I have to force myself to stick to because it's going to be hard for me.
Okay.
You can only choose one game in the franchise. So if we're talking about a specific franchise, you have to pick which is the favorite.
Ooh.
Your favorite in that franchise. And that's it. You can only pick one. There's no, well, it could be this one, it could be this one. It's like, no, I'm going to nail you to one answer, and then we can talk about it.
You know what? That's it. I'm out. I can't pick just one. That's it. I'm done.
All right. Bye. So I'm going solo the rest of the episode.
Yep.
But yeah, and then on top of that, I thought something else I will bring up at some point during the episode is while I was kind of listing all of the franchises that I thought would come up. Maybe other ones will. You may bring up ones I don't have on my list here. But I decided, I was like, you know what? I go, since we're talking franchises, and this is something else we've already covered on a previous show of the best-selling game franchises of all time. We've talked about that.
Right.
In terms of how many units were sold, like how many games were sold.
Right.
Now I wanted to flip it a little bit and talk about the highest grossing video game franchises of all time. So which ones made the most money as opposed to which ones sold the most games? Because
Pokemon is high up on that list.
I am sure Pokemon is too. So I have the top 10 highest grossing video games as well. And I actually found two lists, but I'll talk about the second list later. So if I were to tell you right now, Rich, to pick a franchise off the top of your head, I go, what's the first one that comes to mind in terms of a video game franchise that you love?
I got two. One.
Start with one.
I know.
This isn't a favorite. This isn't a favorite. Just pick a franchise.
Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider. All right. So awesome franchise. I mean, I think they've come out with 15 or 20 or plus games. There are a lot of games across all platforms, handheld and console, PC. Right. Unfortunately, my experience with Tomb Raider only goes to the second one because I've talked about this before, I'm a stickler for going in order, and if I get stuck, I don't continue. And I've been stuck on Tomb Raider 2 for about 20 years.
Fair enough.
So, but let's talk Tomb Raider. So how many Tomb Raiders have you played?
Oh God! On the original PlayStation, I played four. The 1, 2, 3, and 4. Last Revelation being the last one. Never played Chronicles. I tried Angel of Darkness. That game was just a disaster of monumental proportions. I did. Was it Legend, Anniversary, Underworld, and then I've done the 3 Tomb Raiders since they've rebooted it.
Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yep.
Of all the Tomb Raider games you've played, which one is your absolute favorite?
It's really funny. I really don't like remakes. I think the idea of remaking a video game is really kind of lame. But I kind of have to tell you, I've replayed Tomb Raider Anniversary a number of times on a number of different platforms. And I kind of have to say that one's my favorite. Because I like the fact that it took the original Tomb Raider, which I've tried replaying recently, and I think I got up to the Coliseum, and then I was like, all right, I'm done with the tank controls and everything else.
Yeah.
And it modernized it really nicely. It did some of the puzzles really well. And it's overall just a really fun game. And it brings back enough of that nostalgia to that original Tomb Raider that's the one that I'd have to say I think is my favorite.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's fair. I think though with I'm not necessarily against remastered games, I mean, and we've talked about this on the show recently too, like remasters versus remakes, because remakes kind of they'll change the story, they'll change things that you do in the game, whereas a remaster is just a straight lift and they just kind of update the graphics and everything like that. So would Anniversary Edition fall under remaster or remake? Remake. So they changed some of it. Okay.
Yeah, no, they changed the puzzles. The graphics got a complete and total overhaul. It was built on, if I remember right, I think it was built on the Tomb Raider Legend engine.
Oh, so cool.
It wasn't built on the old PlayStation engine. So
right. Well, and when you think about it, and you go back to the original PlayStation, especially with Tomb Raider, and you look at the polygons, and just how limited it was. Remastering those or remaking those, whichever way you want to do it, basically updating them for more current consoles. I mean, to me, I'm all for that because I just think, being able to experience it and have it look better and things like right now I'm in the middle of the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've changed the story around and everything like that. I really don't care. I go because the game's beautiful. Right. It's just beautiful to go through. So I'm a proponent for that. As long as it's not a straight lift, if it's a straight lift and I've already played through it before, I don't know if I'm going to want to go back and play through it again. I mean, unless I really loved it.
Right.
So I kind of like the idea that they changed it a little bit, or at least the puzzles and stuff, so that it felt like a new experience.
By the way, on YouTube, there was this history of Tomb Raider. I think it was about like 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I wound up watching it when I was last year. I was back in school for a year, and it's like one of those things you're looking for something just to quickly watch, and I wound up sitting there watching it, and it really delves into the making of and what made what went into making each of the different Tomb Raiders. And if you have 40 minutes, I'd really strongly recommend it. It was really informative and really, I want to say entertaining it, but I don't know if that's necessarily the right word, but yeah.
All right. Well, considering the fact that most of us are kind of stuck at home, I bet I can find 40 minutes somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Just a little bit. All right. So Tomb Raider was a good start. I'm gonna throw one out there, and I'm obviously, I mean, there's no point in saving this one for later. I mean, the first franchise that always comes to mind for me is going to be the Mario franchise. There are very few video game icons, so to speak, and Mario's definitely got to be up there as number 1 or 2, depending on based on your opinion. I mean, just that, and now when I'm talking Mario, I'm talking more the platformers. Let's not think about spin-offs like, a Mario Kart or Super Smash Brothers or anything like that. Just Super Mario Brothers.
Mario is missing or...
Yeah, none of that stuff. We're talking just straight up the Super Mario platformer games, which extend all the way from, well, I mean, if you count the original Mario Brothers arcade game, you can, but if you go from the platformers, we're going from Nintendo, the original NES, all the way up to the Switch.
Yeah.
And they've covered a lot of games during that time. So I'm going to ask you to go first, and then I'll go after you. So
I already went first. Your turn.
Okay. If I had to pick a Mario game as my favorite of the franchise, and again, it's like, I think part of the way I'm weighing these is how I remember the experience from that time. Because, like, to pick now, like, people would be, I think everybody would be like, well, Super Mario Odyssey is the latest game on the Switch, and it's beautiful, and it's epic, like, the story's great and all that stuff. And I agree with that. All for it. But I gotta say, the one to me that will always stick out in my head is Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I always go to. And again, not to knock all the other ones, it's just, I remember picking up that N64 like on day one. I went and bought it. If I remember correctly, I bought it at The Wiz in Brooklyn.
You just dated yourself.
What?
You just dated yourself.
I do a retro gaming podcast. I date myself every week. So.
Fair enough.
But I just remember going to Nobody Beats The Wiz in Brooklyn, getting in line, and it was a birthday gift, if I remember correctly. So got there, got that, bought the N64, bought 2 launch games, which were Super Mario 64 and Pilot Wings. Those were the 2 games I got with it. And I just have to say, just first off, turning on that game and seeing the 3D Mario head that greets you, it's like, hello. And it's just like, just from there, I was like, wow, okay, this is already really cool. And then when you just the opening scene, when you're in the courtyard in front of the castle, and you're just basically there to mess around, and you're learning the controls, just jumping around and stuff, and just being interactive with the environment in a obviously in a 3-dimensional way. It was so mind-blowing.
Well, to that point, you think about it, like, really a lot of it was platformers to that point, especially for Mario. And then all of a sudden it's like, here you are greeted right away with this giant, like you said, this giant 3D Mario head. And you're just kind of like, whoa, okay, so that's how this is going to be.
Yep.
And it just kind of, it gave you this entirely different experience from what we were used to.
Yep. No, absolutely. And also, as like a side note, when you learned that you can manipulate the Mario head on the title screen, that was even more fun.
Yeah.
But then getting into the worlds, and in other words, like going in and like jumping through the paintings and all of these different worlds, it was like the game felt so massive and experiential. So, and just controlling him through it. Now, when you go back to it and play it, like I've gone back to it because I'm still trying to get all the stars in the game. I've beaten the game several times, but I've never gotten 120 stars, and I've never unlocked Yoshi. I'm somewhere around like 104 or 107 or something like that. But just it just felt so big, like bigger than any other Mario game I've ever played. So and that's why it's like that's the one I always go back to in my head. It's like the first Mario game I always think of now is Mario 64.
Right.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm going all the way back to the NES.
Okay.
Super Mario Brothers 3.
Super Mario Brothers 3. It's funny. I thought you would pick Super Mario World. I don't know why. But
it was between that and Super Mario Brothers 3, but there was just something about, like, to me, Super Mario World, there was, it got a little more, and it's going to sound so weird, it got more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Super Mario 3, there was just a certain simplicity to the game.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, here's this map, okay, navigate the map, navigate the boards, but the power-ups were just really kind of cool. You had the Doki.
Tanuki suit?
Tanuki suit, yeah.
Yeah.
You had the Tanuki suit, you had the hammer suit, like you had these kind of cool suits that you could use. And I remember just kind of being like, oh, this is so cool. And then when you fly for the first time, trying to remember like when all of a sudden you found, like, as I'm sure going back to the day, we didn't have the internet. You wanted to find out about secrets, you had to have Nintendo Power, or you had to have a friend who had Nintendo Power,
or you had to go watch the Wizard,
yeah,
the Fred Savage movie.
Yep.
Because that game was literally a walking commercial for Nintendo, including Mario 3.
Yep. And I just remember when all of a sudden we discovered that there was whistles, and you could actually go to the different levels, and it was like, what? Yep.
And I think also on a slightly different note, Mario may have in that game specifically, Mario may have made cosplay cool. Because again, he dresses as like the Tanuki, which is like the raccoon, the frog, and then what was the third one? There was a third one, wasn't there?
He's kind of got like the beaver kind of thing where he turns into the statue.
Oh yeah, he turns into the statue. But anyway, it's just one of those things where it was like, oh, okay, Mario, the first furry in video games.
And it was fun playing that game two-player because there was like a certain level that, like, I couldn't do, but I knew you could, but it was my turn. And then it's like we would play each other, you would win, and then you would take over my turn and then go beat that board. So it was a fun kind of co-op, but in a different way.
Yeah, it was a competitive co-op in some way. And to be honest with you, at the end of the day, there was never a like an end score that showed, oh, like you beat me, I beat you. It was more like, no, it was really more co-op where it's like, you didn't beat that level, so I will, and then we'll just continue on. The only thing that you got for beating a level was you got to keep playing until you died, basically.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just a really cool way to co-op your way to defeating a Mario game, which was awesome. You know?
Did you ever try to actually play it all the way through back in the day?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What was meaning like no warps, just literally, what was the farthest you ever got?
I think I beat it that way.
You did beat it that way?
I think so. Because I remember all the other levels that that obviously you skip over.
So going straight through, this is on the original Nintendo, not on anything that has save states or anything else like that. The farthest I ever got was level 7. I think I got about halfway through World 7, rather. And I remember, I think I was playing for like 3+ hours at that point, and I'm like, I don't want to play anymore. And I just kind of gave up.
Well, see, and that was the other challenge as well, because back then, no save states. So if once you started, you're committed, which is why the whistle obviously was so beneficial, because it's like, oh, I can skip all these and the game will only take me maybe an hour and a half.
Right.
Instead of however long it took. But I do remember going all the way through it. Now, I can't say I played every level going through it because, sometimes you had a choice in the direction you went. But I definitely remember going through it without the whistles at one point. So, Well, I'm a completionist that way, I guess. Although if I did skip levels, I guess I'm not a full completionist.
Fair enough.
So, all right, cool. So that's Mario. We got Mario out of the way.
Can I pick another one?
What?
Can I pick the next franchise?
You may pick the next franchise. Go for it.
All right. I don't know if you've played these because actually I don't think you and I have ever talked about these. Metal Gear.
I played the original Metal Gear, and I don't remember if I beat it. I don't think I did. And then I played Metal Gear. Is Metal Gear Solid the one on the PlayStation?
Yep.
Okay. Played that, got all the way to was it Liquid Snake? Who was the Liquid Snake was the mirror image of him?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Got all the way there and then stopped.
So you never beat that one?
No. So I've never, to my knowledge, I've never completed a Metal Gear game. So.
All right. So then so this is all on me right now.
This is all you. This is your show.
All right. So not counting Metal Gear Survive or Metal Gear Acid or any of the other ones. This just Metal Gear Solid 1 through 5. I could throw in there Metal Gear and then Metal Gear 2 on the Nintendo and the Famicom. I'm actually going to go controversial on this one here for a minute. And I am going to actually say Metal Gear Solid 2 is my favorite.
Okay. Why Solid 2, though?
Because everybody hated when you switched over to Raiden, and you didn't get a chance to play as Snake anymore through the game. And then the other thing is the story, especially as you got towards the end, got really all sorts of weird, like existential and shit. And I will tell you, at the time, I hated that, and I got so pissed off with it. But I replayed it probably maybe about 8-9 years ago. I got the Metal Gear Solid collection on the PS3. And I was surprised how much I enjoyed the gameplay and the story. Because the thing was, when that story first came out in 2001, it was just so ahead of its time that it was like ridiculous. And all of a sudden now, here we are, 2010. And even now, to this point, I would even go so far as to say that it's even still relevant as a story, because it's all about this transfer of information. Do you restrict the information? How much of what you see is real? How much what you don't see is real? How much are we manipulated? And it's just this really interesting storyline of a game. And it just, it really took that first Metal Gear Solid and then really just took it to the next level.
Okay. Very cool. I would love to say that I got into those. There was something, with me, it's kind of almost like it's similar to movies. I'm not a big fan of army movies, and I think I feel the same way towards video games, like army related or military related games. Never really clicked with me.
What's funny is, and I'm gonna agree with you. I agree with you. Like Call of Duty, I can't stand the Call of Duties, the Battlefronts, and all those other things. Metal Gear is the only one that I tend to kind of steer towards, but I think because of the fact there's a sci-fi element in it, and I think that's where I can make that dissection.
Oh yeah, no, that makes complete sense. It's like, because there's a little more to it than that. Because we're big, you may be a bigger sci-fi fan than I am. I mean, I love sci-fi. I think I lean more towards fantasy stuff than sci-fi, but like Alien, the Alien franchise and stuff like that. So yeah, totally get that, and I can see why that would make it more appealing to you. For me, it was just I guess maybe it was a little too military for me, and that's why I never really gravitated towards it. But still, a very successful franchise, spawning multiple games. When was the last time we've seen a Metal Gear game, actually?
Survive.
And
it was panned.
How long ago was that?
Just recent, like
it was recent.
Ago. Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
Well, but that wasn't done by Kojima. That was basically like Konami had their people. And I didn't even play it. I just saw that everybody was like, this game is absolutely horrendous. It's terrible. Don't even bother.
Wow. All right. That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Metal Gear in the books. I'm going to jump over to, let's see, I'm looking at my list. And, here's an interesting one to throw out at you. I'm going to go switch genres. Let's go to the fighting genre.
Ooh.
Because we can't, I don't think we can go through this episode without talking about Mortal Kombat.
Mm.
You know, and as much as I enjoyed Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat was the place for me.
Right.
And you know, and again, it's like trying to go back and think about all of the real. I mean, there have been a lot of awesome Mortal Kombat games. I've been playing recently. I know 11 just came out, but I've been playing. I downloaded 10.
Yep.
When it was on sale, and it was funny because when I was playing 10 with friends, I was like, wait a minute. I go, what's this whole big story mode thing? And he's like, yeah. He's like, they started really introducing this, like these big cinematic, you know, sequences in here to show, like, to have a whole continuing story. I'm like, oh wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Because I kind of left Mortal Kombat behind somewhere around MK4, which was like maybe in 2000.
Which was to begin
yeah.
with.
And I picked up and I did pick up on PS2. I had like Deadly Alliance and Deception.
Right.
There was a bit of story here, but I didn't realize they had continued it all the way through.
Yeah.
So, but it was really awesome to see because now I'm like, gee, I kind of want to go back and get all the other Mortal Kombats to watch the story play out and play through them. But again, it's like when I think about Mortal Kombat, I go all the way back to obviously when it first started. And I got to say, probably the one that I gravitated towards the most. And it was interesting too, because I put story aside for this one, and I got to go with, and this was on the N64 as well. It was on PlayStation as well, but I had it on the N64, was the Mortal Kombat trilogy, because Mortal Kombat trilogy included every single character that was ever created up until that point in MK1, MK2, Ultimate, MK3. Everybody was crammed in there. You had all the levels, you know, all the fatalities, all the animalities, all the babalities, the friendships, literally everything.
There was code for
Yep.
one hit fatalities and what have you.
Yeah, so there were codes to do that, which made it a lot easier to do. And it was just a great culmination of everything that came before. It's like, oh, you're giving me access to everything here in one game. So because of that, it's like, that's the one that I always think of, even though like, obviously there are other ones I can say, oh, you know what, this was great because of all these characters they introduced, but I just got to go with trilogy because to me, it's the one that encompassed everything for me.
No, for me, it was for the old school. Yes, I would agree with the trilogy. For me though, it was MK9. MK9
Ooh.
was, can I tell you the amount of hours that my friends and I wound up playing that game, because it was always like 4 or 5 of us always hanging out. It had a tag match where basically like we could play, each of us had our own characters, and it wasn't like, oh, where, you know, I control the 2 different characters. No, like it was 4 players tagging up against each other. So
Oh, wow.
like, you know, like you and I would be on one team, and then like, you know, Larry and Verdi would be on another team, and you could play against each other, and it was just awesome.
Oh, wow.
We must have played that game for probably, no joke, I would have to say like 4 years straight. Like
Jeez.
Thursday nights were like guys' nights, and we would get pizza, we would go back, and we would sit down and seriously do nothing but play that game. And the other fun one was eventually we got to a point where we started playing for pink slips. So you know how it's like you have your character and I have my character?
Yeah.
So basically we would have a pink slip match, which means that like, let's say, who was your character in MK10?
Sub-Zero. Always go
Okay.
there.
So let's say Sub-Zero, right? And my character was always Jason in that game.
Okay. Jason's awesome in that game.
I was brutal with Jason. Anyway, which by the way, since we're both on PS4, we should really play each other on that.
Yes, you can slaughter me.
Yes. So anyway, so let's say we're playing that, and what would happen is I beat you with Sub-Zero. We both would have to play as Sub-Zero. And
Okay.
if I beat you with Sub-Zero, you could not use Sub-Zero against anybody else until you beat me to reclaim your Sub-Zero.
Oh, yeah. See, that's cruel.
Yes.
That is cruel. Yeah, but what if you stopped playing as Sub-Zero? Then I could never win him back, right?
No, you could always challenge me.
Oh, okay.
You could be like, I challenge you with your Sub-Zero
Got it.
to reclaim my
Okay, so you basically, when you throw down the challenge, you get to select the other person's character.
right. So like basically, we would always be like, all right, Anthony, let's fight, and it's like, okay, are we doing a pink slip fight, or are we doing a normal fight? And it's like, no, I want to reclaim my Sub-Zero. So
It's only fun for pink slips.
yeah,
But I will say that at least on PS4, like there were a group of us that were playing MK10 recently when we all got it. So like I can see that becoming a very long, drawn out, complicated, fun little tournament. Let's say
yes,
that would be awesome. But well, and I've never. I'll tell you right now, I've never played MK9 because I said I haven't really played. So I would definitely now want to go pick it up just to check it
and
out.
I'll tell you, nine is like 10, just faster
Okay.
in terms of controls, I would say.
Okay.
And
Fair
I would
enough.
say though, and I have to tell you, it was a close for me. It was very close between 9 and 10 because I really enjoyed 10, the storyline mode. Which, by the way, 9 has a really phenomenal storyline mode in that as well.
Okay.
And 10, like I said, was close because you got Alien, you got Predator, you got Jason. It was just so much fun.
All right. Well, no, I can't argue that. I think you can argue any MK game is great if you're not going to the spin-offs, basically. We're looking at you, Mythologies. Those are terrible.
Yeah.
But all right, so MK9 for you, MK Trilogy for me. I am going to want to take you up on that Pink Slip Challenge. It sounds like fun.
Yep.
I just now know not to play against you when you're playing Jason. So I've already got that down, which is good. All right. So Mortal Kombat done. What do you got? What's next on your list?
I had one more, but it's too easy of one. I don't want to go with that. But you know what? Tell you what, let's go with Metroid.
All right, Metroid.
Yeah.
This one again is probably going to be more your bust than mine because I've played through the original Metroid and loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I started Super Metroid on my SNES Classic and then stopped. Not because I didn't want to continue. I just got distracted with other things. But that's it for me with Metroid. I've never really. I know. It's one of the series I always say I want to go back to, and I've never gone. And I know how much you love Metroid. There it is, Super Metroid. Very nice. In box. Very nice. Very nice.
All right, so talking about Metroid, Metroid 2, Super Metroid, Fusion, Zero Mission, Primes 1, 2, and 3. Hunters. I have to go back to. This was like they mastered everything in this game.
Mm-hmm.
For a 2D exploration adventure like game, they managed to figure out so much story into that without having any cutscenes. And that was one of the things that I absolutely love about that game. The weaponry in the game was just amazing. I still remember to this day being by my buddy's house the first time I got up to Mother Brain, and then the self-destruct sequence starts. And like that was one hell of a maze trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
And I just remember being super happy because all of a sudden I got out. I had like 10 seconds left. Samus is running, and all of a sudden she goes into the speed boost, and then I jump, and I'm like all happy because here's the ship, but then I do this.
Oh no.
And I was like, no. And then the planet explodes, and I didn't get off. I was like,
oh wow. That's cruel. That is cruel.
So I was like, nope, done. I'll try this again another time.
Wow.
Not to mention, I can't tell you how many times. I think I've generally tend to play that game probably once every 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
And by the way, my fastest record is still on this. I beat the game in 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I could do that now. But back then, I was able to literally run through the game. I think I just literally kept my hand on the run button the entire
The
time
entire time.
and just plowed through it.
Yeah, well, once you play through something enough and you have it memorized, it's not that hard. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say it's not that hard to get through. It's just that you got the rhythm for it. I remember my big issue with Metroid, and it was with the first Metroid too, because I didn't beat the first Metroid for a very long time. I had a hard time adjusting to the whole 2D, like the 2D side-scrolling open world nature of the game.
Yep.
You know, because up until that point, I kind of like all the games I played were either like platforms. It's like you knew where you were going and that was it. This was one where it was like, well, you can basically go in any direction you want, and when you unlock it, you can keep going. But you know, it was very easy to get lost, and I would find myself sometimes going in circles way too many times. So I would just be like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm kind of done. I'll put that aside. Nowadays, though, 2D side-scrolling open world stuff, I absolutely love. Like, I've just like, there's something where it's like they started to click in my head, and now like I can run through them. I just recently finished a Metroidvania style game called Hollow Knight on the Switch.
Oh, how is it?
Amazing, absolutely amazing. I clocked probably 45 or 50 hours in that game. So much to do, so much story. You'll love it. I know you'll love it because again, if you love Metroid, this is the game for you. Yeah, I cannot give it enough praise. And even with all the 50 hours, I still haven't beaten. I haven't gotten the best ending yet.
Oh wow!
I've gotten like 2 endings out of the game, but I have yet to get the best ending because I have not beaten the final boss. You know what I mean? For whatever the best ending is. And I remember too because I tried like crazy, and I'm like, okay, I go, this thing's impossible, so I got to go back and finish it. But yeah, Hollow Knight you'll definitely love, especially if you're a huge Metroid fan, which you are. So works out nicely. I'm gonna stay in the same kind of area in terms of game style because you bring up Metroid. I'm gonna bring up Castlevania.
That's what I wrote down.
Yeah, so it only makes sense. Because Castlevania.
Metroidvania.
What?
Metroidvania.
Yeah, I mean, you get Metroidvania games because of Metroid and Castlevania, so you got to cover a little bit of Castlevania. And then so with Castlevania, which I also find interesting too, because like in the beginning, Castlevania was just level oriented. You know, level 1, 2, 3, you go through it, and there, you know, and there were some side stories like you get to Castlevania 3, Rondo of Blood, stuff like that, like. You know, there were different ways you can go and different endings you can get, but still at the same rate, you still had that essentially like the level aspect of it. Castlevania 2 was the outlier for that because that was a little more open world-ish.
And kind of not very well translated.
And not very well translated either. But I will always be, with Castlevania, I will always be in the minority here because I love Castlevania 2. And I don't know, and I just think the reason why I loved it so much is because I figured it out and I got through the game when I was a kid. I was like, bad translations and all. And I'm sure I'm pretty confident I used Nintendo Power for the one secret on that left wall with you need like the white crystal or the red crystals.
Yeah, to kneel down and then
to get the tornado and all that. Like I'm positive I used Nintendo Power to do that because there was no way you could figure that out on your own because the translations were so bad. But even though I've always said Castlevania 2 is my favorite on the NES, but if I got to pick an overall favorite, it's really, really hard to argue against Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I mean, that game till even today stands just above and beyond like one of the greatest games I think ever made.
That's my choice, is Symphony.
Yeah, I mean, between the character development with Alucard, the open world of Dracula's castle and traveling through it.
You beat it, and then you have to flip the castle.
Yep, you beat it, and the castle goes upside down. So you're only halfway done at that point. Because I remember, when I got through it, I was like, oh, 100%, we're done. No, it's 200% to really complete it or something like that. Because they would count how far you got on it.
Yep.
And then again, probably one of the best scores ever done in a video game. And I actually I think I have some of it because when I was one of my trips to Japan for work years ago, I went to Tower Records, and in Tower Records in Japan, they have a whole section just for video
game music.
And I picked up like a Castlevania compilation soundtrack.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the score in Symphony of the Night, like I still hear it in my head playing through it. And it's also one of those games where it's like I've beaten it probably, I want to say twice, and I will happily go back and go through that whole game again.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And the other cool thing too is or that I liked about it is because Rondo of Blood wasn't very well known in the US because it didn't come out on any major platformers. It came out did it come out on TurboGrafx? What?
Wasn't that on the GBA?
Was it GBA? No. Well, it may have been re-released on GBA, but it, like originally Rondo of Blood or Dracula X was like very hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm remembering correctly, I think it came out on the TurboGrafx at the time or something like that. That was the problem with it. It was like it wasn't well known to anybody who played the other ones on NES or whatever. I don't have the information in front of me and I can't think, but Symphony of the Night began with the final battle from Rondo of Blood. You had to do the ending from Rondo of Blood, and then you transition into Symphony of the Night. So I thought that was always really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've agreed for one, on one, which is.
But wait, hold on. You named two there. You said Castlevania 2 and Symphony of the Night.
No. I said as much as I loved Castlevania 2, Symphony of the Night is my favorite.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's what I was saying.
Yep. So we finally agree.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think if I said Castlevania 2, I think everybody who listens and watches our show would probably tune out completely, and I wouldn't blame them either because 2 is probably one of the least liked in the franchise. Although,
you know what? I'm going to agree with you. I really enjoyed 2 though. Like I have such a sweet spot for it. Like 1 was great, 3 was amazing, but there's just something about 2.
Yep.
Like it was difficult. It didn't make sense, but you kind of dealt with it and you figured it out and you just kind of plowed through it. And I think that was half the fun of it.
Yeah.
Like, I still remember like when you finally got the chance to get the flame whip and you were just like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. It was the best weapon ever. And I guess it was like that little bit of RPG that they added to it. Cause that's what it felt like cause you're upgrading your weapon along the way. And it wasn't like the other games where it's like when you died, you lost the whip and you had to go get it again from, the candlesticks or whatever. It's like, once you bought it, you owned it. Yeah. And that was also what I found appealing about it. But we are in the minority with that one. And still Symphony of the Night wins out overall. All right. So you said that was the last one you had on your list though, that you just
I have one more. Okay. And I know this is kind of more your wheelhouse than mine.
Uh-oh.
Zelda.
I was trying to save Zelda for last.
Okay. So let's save it for last. Let's move on then.
But no, because it's not your wheelhouse. I wanted to end on something maybe that we both like. So we'll go to Zelda now since Zelda is, but since you brought it up, you get to speak to it first.
So Zelda's a bit of an anomaly for me, and here's why. I've never transferred over with Zelda to 3D, and I don't know what it is. There's something about the Zelda games that every time I've tried to play Ocarina, I've tried to play Majora's, I've tried playing Twilight Princess, and I'll get always up to the first dungeon, and then I just never take it any further. And I don't know why. Yeah. So for me, it always comes back to A Link to the Past.
Okay. And hey, you know what? That's a good choice. But of the ones, so why Link to the Past? Aside from the fact that you couldn't do the 3D ones.
Well, it was such a fun game, storyline wise. There were so many little side stories. And I remember like up to that point, a lot of times you would beat the game. It was like, yeah, you beat the game. This was kind of like, yeah, you beat the game. But then it's like, oh, here's what happened to the kid who was sick. Here's what happened to the old man. Here's what happened to the what's it called? The two the guys that make the swords. Why am I drawing a blank?
Oh, not the Gorons? No, not the Gorons.
Whatever. Anyway, like it kind of went back and it showed you each and every single one, like what happened to each of them. And I really kind of enjoyed that. And it was a game that only up until recently, like I always struggled trying to find every single item in the game. And only recently have I been able to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being able to go back to it all these years later and still having like that challenge also speaks to like, you know, the strength of the game, because it's like you've played through it, but you still have to fight through it, you know?
Yep. What about you?
Well, I mean, you're definitely not going to agree with me because you couldn't get past the first level. But I got to say, again, it's one of those things where I can talk about the original till the cows come home. I've beaten that game more times than any other game I've ever played. But and you know, it's funny, as we've been going through this episode, I'm realizing the N64 has really been the home for a lot of the most memorable franchise games for me, because Ocarina of Time to me was absolutely mind-blowing at the time. I mean, granted, we were just transitioning off of mostly 2D to 3D gaming, but right. The strength of the game wasn't just the fact that we're doing a 3D game. The strength of the game was the story, the epic nature of it, the time travel. I mean, everything that went on in that game, it was like one adventure to the next, and each one was just as exciting. The temples were, you know, challenging, and the weapons that you picked up were great. Epona, getting your horse and riding through, you know, and just riding through stuff. I mean, it's everything about that game. It's like I look back and I just smile. You know, I just smile every time I think about all the memorable moments that happened. And interacting with the Zoras and the Gorons for the first time in 3D. There were so many cool things. And then obviously the Ocarina, you know, yep. playing the different tunes, and, you know, the tunes would make time move forward, move backward. You can make it rain. You can call your horse. You know, there were so many things in that game that were just amazing.
I really want to love that game, and I've watched my friends play it. I remember back in the day being by one of my friends' places, and he would just like, I remember watching him beat Ganondorf at that point, right?
Yep, Ganondorf. Yep.
And I remember watching him beat him at the end, and just like I was like, wow, this is an epic ending.
Yep.
And it just, I don't know what it is. It's just, no matter how many times I've tried, I just can't. Like, okay, so one of the first reasons why I ever gave up on the game was, you know how in the Deku Tree?
Yep.
So you remember how you had to jump off with the torch and light the spider web on fire? The game glitched, and it wouldn't light on fire for me.
Oh, well, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I tried I tried each of the different things to jump off from at the top. Mm-hmm. I tried rolling around on it. I mean, I tried everything. Nothing worked, and I was just like, all right, I'm done.
Wow. Okay. I can understand that. I strongly recommend you give it another shot. I really do think it's like, if I had to make a list of games everybody should play through at least once, that one's high on the list for me. Mm-hmm. So I would say if you ever get an opportunity, give it another chance. I would be curious to see how you would react to Breath of the Wild on the Switch, because obviously it's 3D, but Breath of the Wild to me is like, yeah, like when I finished that game, I felt like I completed something. You know, it's like, wow.
I watched you finish it. You showed me the end, and that was impressive just watching that.
Yeah, but just everything it took to get to that ending, which was probably about 70 or 80 hours of gameplay before I finally beat it the first time. Like, I really invested.
You know what I loved about that, though, is similar to Chrono Trigger. You could literally just go walking right into the castle if you wanted to.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend it.
No, you can just walk right in and get slaughtered.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was the cool thing about it. It was the ultimate like open world.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you want to fight him, you know, without any gear and clothes or whatever. It's like, go right ahead. Good luck to you. But no, Ocarina of Time, though, just to go back, Ocarina of Time for me will always be like my favorite of all the Zelda games. Up until now, at least. All right, so you threw Zelda and me, and I know, and you know, for everybody watching and listening, we're not going to get to every franchise, unfortunately. We would be here forever.
Oh God.
You know, so I say let's do one. I want to do one more, but I'm going to give you an option. You want to do two more?
Yeah, let's do 2 more. This is fun.
Okay, we'll do 2 more. All right. So I'm gonna go with then. I feel weird not mentioning this one, so I gotta bring up Sonic the Hedgehog.
Ooh.
I mean, Sega would not have been as successful as they were without Sonic. Sonic was Sonic was the definitive game for the Sega Genesis. Unfortunately, not for the Sega Saturn, but for the Sega Genesis and for me, the Dreamcast. So, so when I think back to Sonic and I think of all the really cool games, and part of me wants to go with the Dreamcast one because Sonic Adventure was so cool, but I'll never, ever, ever forget the first one. So for me, Sonic the Hedgehog, I got to go with the original. And again, just because up until that point, like we were playing these side-scrolling platformers and everything was great. And this one just literally inserted speed, attitude. Like your main character had attitude. Like if, you saw it in the way you played. You had a memorable enemy in Robotnik.
Yep.
The levels, like the colors were so vibrant and the levels were so clever and they worked to your speed. You know what I mean? Like, and you would go through levels so quickly that they would blur because you were going so fast. And then obviously if you ran into something and stopped, you would stop, and then obviously sometimes you'd have to go back or whatever. But I'll never forget just turning that game on and playing Green Hill Zone, and the music was great. And
music was phenomenal.
The music was phenomenal, and then just literally soaring through that first level. And it's like, wow, I go, this guy is so fast, I can barely keep up with him on the screen, and yet you did because he was the central point. It was just that the rest of the world was going by so quickly.
But nothing was worse than the water levels.
Yes, I know. That sound when you were about to drown, that used to give me so much tension. I'm like, holy crap, I gotta find a bubble. I have to find a bubble. But yeah.
And then you would die, and you would see the big bubble come up from underneath you.
Yes, exactly. As you're drowning.
Yep.
And again, like I was saying before, like Sonic's attitude, it's like if you let him stand there for too long, he would literally look at the screen and tap his foot. He's like, come on, what are you waiting for? I want to run.
Yeah.
I was like, just like all those little things. And then obviously all the big things like the level design and all that stuff. Everything in that game just like literally was like Mario Who at that point. Because when you think about the Mario games and you compare them to Sonic, it was like Sonic did everything. They did everything in their power to blow Nintendo out of the water. Yep. And in terms of Sonic, it did.
Yeah.
At that time. It was just, for me at least, it was just absolutely. And then of course you had the sequels, but still for me, I gotta go with the first Sonic. Just for all of like just the way that it made me rethink the way a game should be played.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that a character should be in a game, because up until that point, characters were kind of simple. Like when you played Mario, it was like, all right, Mario's going to save the princess. But it was just, a character that walked across the screen. I was like, Sonic, at least I was like, oh, okay, I'm dealing with a guy and he's got a personality. Like you can kind of see the personality coming out of the character. And I thought that was just a beautiful thing to do in a video game.
For me, it was Sonic 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being was I felt like Sonic 2 took everything that Sonic 1 didn't have.
Yep.
Just fixed it. Like I love the fact that you could now press down, charge him up, and then he would just take off.
Yeah, that was cool.
It added the Tails element. And then, just like, I don't know, there was just like something about 2 that the level design, I remember really enjoying that. And just, it was just like, going back, just talking about like what you said, there was a lot of fun that was had with that game. And I don't want to rehash everything you said, but basically, similar.
Okay. Yeah, no, and that's fair. It's like, I loved Sonic 2 also, but, in the only reason why I chose 1 is you couldn't have gotten to 2 without 1, and 1 did so many things so well.
Did you ever collect all of the Chaos Crystals, Emeralds, without cheating?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. You?
Nope.
I think I got close once. I think I got like 5 out of the 6, if I'm not mistaken, because there were 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember getting close once, but I never got them all.
I think the best I ever did is I got 2 of them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they were just hard to get. It was just hard to do. But yeah, Sonic, Sonic, there's so many good Sonic games outside of the ones we just mentioned to try. But yeah, at least, for me, the first one, for you, the second one, it's just like those OG ones were just outstanding. All right. What is going to be the last franchise we're going to cover, Rich?
I have an idea.
What is it?
Mega Man?
I knew it was going to be Mega Man. So, yeah, you go first. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to go first because you can speak to Mega Man way better than I can.
And hold on, I'm going to add something to this. This is only Mega Man. No X's, no,
Oh, so just like the first 6?
Well, no. We could do Mega Man 1 through 11.
Oh, okay, 1 through 11. All right.
But no using, no Mega Man X's 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
All right, you just want to stick to those.
Let's stick to the regular Mega Man.
All right. I'll be brief only because I've played through, I want to say I played through the first 5. I've tried 9, 10, and 11 and have failed miserably at them. But I've played through the first 5. And again, the one that will always stick out to me will be 2. 2 for me was like, there was something cool about 1, but the difficulty on it made it such a chore that I was like, okay, they're trying to make the hardest game possible here. But then when 2 came out and they added 2 more robots to beat, and Mega Man got Rush. Rush showed up in 2. I think the Slide showed up in 2.
No, Slide was 3.
Slide was 3. Okay, Slide was 3. But then you had Rush to get you through levels. The bosses to me in 2 are the most memorable ones because I'll always think of Airman and
Metal Man.
Metal Man was awesome. Blade. Which one?
His Metal Blade was
the Metal Blades were
green weapon ever.
Yeah, they were the best one. Like you used Metal Man's weapon everywhere you could go. Like that was just what was awesome about him. But I remember, I remember the levels more than any other Mega Man game. And then the epic travel to get to Wily after you beat all the robots. Like I just remember, I was like, wait, I'm not done yet. Wait, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. It's like it just felt like it went on forever before you finally got to Wily. But yeah, that one for me is the one that like definitely stands out the most. The rest of them kind of blur in my head in terms of like I could probably name a robot here and there. But 2 for me was by far my favorite.
So I have beaten all of them except for 9 and 10.
Okay.
Those are the only 2 I have never beaten.
Difficulty wise?
Yeah, just those are just punishing.
Yep.
I don't even think I even beat one of the bosses even.
Wow. Okay.
I actually am going to agree with you on 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But here's the thing I'm going to say is 3 was very close behind.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say 3.
But here, you know what it is? It's because after, once we had the shutdown happen and I was texting you, I kind of plowed through Mega Man's 1, 2, and 3 because I was like, I just wanted something quick and mindless and kind of fun to do because it's fun to go back to them every once in a while.
Yeah, it makes sense.
1 is just, like you said, really hard. What's funny, though, is in 1, and here's what I'll say is, the levels were insanely hard, but the bosses were insanely easy. Like when I was doing it just now.
Okay.
2 is just a load of fun.
Yeah.
The level design was fun. The bosses were fun. The weapons, when you find out like what the weapons were to try to beat the bosses, that was like that. It was a good balance.
Mm-hmm.
3, I will say, I liked. You mentioned about this adding the slide. I thought that was a great element added to it. The bosses weren't as fun as 2 were in 3, and that's one of the big ones. But I liked one of the things that I liked was after you beat all of them, then you had to go back and redo 4 of the levels and fight the Mega Man 2 bosses.
Yeah.
And I always loved that element of it. But then like Wiley's levels in 3 just felt so short. And I was kind of like, eh. And then for me, the problem with 4, 5, and 6 was, once again, they ramped up the difficulty level. And it was like all the robot weapons that you wound up inheriting after you beat somebody, I think like most of them only took off. Like if the regular Mega Buster took off 1,
Yeah.
like I think most of them took off, like robot things took off 2.
Yeah, and that was and to your point, part of the fun was figuring out which weapon was the robot's weakness that you had acquired. Because I remember struggling, like getting all the way to the end and then using the wrong boss weapon, and then dying. And I'm like, oh, got to try a different boss weapon and stuff. So yeah, if they kind of took that away, then I can understand why the appeal was a little lost there.
Yeah. And then I would say 7, I beat 7 once. I did it years ago, and I was kind of like, eh. 8 was on the PlayStation, and I literally did that once, like maybe back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, whatever that was. I remember the same thing. I was like, meh. 11 I just beat recently. One of my buddies bought that for me, and I played through it, and once again, it was good.
Yeah. I think I have the anniversary. Did I buy I think I bought the anniversary collection on the PS4, so I have them. I haven't played through them in a long time, but I definitely still have them. But yeah, I mean,
the anniversary collection have save states on it or no?
It should. Yeah, I think it should. Because I'm not going to lie. It's like playing through those, I need a save state.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. Gone are the days where I would literally sit down in front of my television as a kid and play through something until I beat it. And if I had to start over, I started over. But again, but even with Mega Man, I mean, starting with the second one, they gave you a leg up with the password screen. So at least you had a password screen where it's like, okay, I've beaten 2 of them, but my game is over, but I can at least put the password in and go back, and those 2 are still defeated. You couldn't save in the middle of a level, but you can still do that, which is good.
Right.
So, all right. So Mega Man 2 for both of us.
Yeah.
Nice.
No.
I think that's a good one for us to end on in terms of game franchises. And again, you know, we couldn't get to all of them. I had a whole bunch of other ones on my list, like Final Fantasy, Mario Kart, Resident Evil, Grand Theft Auto, there's Pokemon, Street Fighter. You know, I mean, there's so many franchises. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. What?
Lightning round, no explanations. Go through them. Just say what yours are, and I'll say what mine are.
Okay, so let's just spit it out. Final Fantasy. What you got?
7.
Mario Kart.
Double Dash.
64. Resident Evil.
Ooh. Are we counting remakes?
Yeah, because remakes are kind of different.
I really enjoyed 2. Remake of 2.
Okay, I got to go original 2. Grand Theft Auto.
5.
3.
I was going to say 3.
I got to go 3. Again, for me, change the game. Pokemon.
Snap.
I can't. What?
Snap? I don't know.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've never played an original Pokemon game, so if I got to go with one, I got to go Stadium.
Yeah.
So Stadium for me. What else did I say? Street Fighter.
4.
All right, I got to go. Was it Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition?
Yep.
Got to go with that one. Those were all the ones that I had on the list. And like I said, I'm sure there are more.
By the way, adding one more, and once again, I think that we both know the answer to this one. The Contra series.
The original.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
that was the other one I had down. I was like, that's too easy.
Yeah, no, gotta go with the OG on that one. Yeah. So those are some franchises, and you guys, if we haven't covered a franchise, it's like sound off. Let us know what kind of franchises you guys have been playing through the years. I mean, there's so many other ones, like we talked about how we don't like Call of Duty, but Call of Duty is a successful franchise. Halo, there are so many franchises out there.
One of the ones I was going to mention, but I know you're also not a sports person, is Madden.
Well, I didn't even think of touching sports, because we can talk NHL, we can talk NBA, we can talk Madden, we can talk wrestling. So many wrestling games out there. Again, this is kind of a topic that can span several episodes.
By the way, I will agree with you on one, going with the N64 wrestling, WrestleMania 2000.
No mercy.
No mercy? Really?
No Mercy beats WrestleMania 2000 every day of the week.
Whew. All right.
But again, sound off on on franchises we didn't cover and what your favorites are. We'd really love to hear about that. Before we close up this episode, I wanted to touch briefly. I had said at the beginning, I had looked up the highest grossing video game franchises of all time, and I wanted to go through the top 10. And I'm sure some of these will be very well known to you, Rich, and other ones may be a little surprising, actually, because when I saw the list, I'm like, oh, wow, okay. And again, this is encompassing all video game franchises. So at number 10, and this was these numbers are updated as of 2019. So okay. So they're as updated as we can get them. So number 10 is the FIFA soccer video game franchise.
I could see that.
Which began in 1993, so it's had plenty of time to build up some cash. And it's estimated $11.5 billion. That's high in gross. $11.5 billion gross in sales.
Figure that's more of a worldwide game, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that does, yeah, exactly. So that's number 10. Number 9, and again, you also have to think, how many FIFA games have we seen since the first one came out?
Right.
Okay. The ones that surprise me more are the ones that, like, let's say if I get to one, like they have like one game, and that you'll hear about that in a minute. But number 9, and this is one that I'm not familiar with, is Crossfire for the PC. Came out in 2007. It's a first-person shooter, and since 2007 has grossed $12 billion.
Wow. Never heard of it.
It's like I said, it's first-person shooter, and that's probably why I haven't heard of it, because I am not a first-person shooter person at all.
I used to be, not anymore.
I never could be. Give me headaches. Still does. All right, so number 8, and one that was just on our rapid-fire list. Number 8, Street Fighter, which debuted in 1997, $12.01 billion. So just beat out the other one by like a hair.
Yep.
And again, what's funny is like they kind of break down in some of these. They break down which game made the most. So for Street Fighter 2 alone made $10.6 billion in gross out of the $12 billion, which means the rest of it makes up $2 billion.
Right.
All the other games that came out since Street Fighter 2. So that was really cool. Number 7, again, on the PC. And it's not surprising because the PC, like PC gaming online, it's all about buying stuff in the game. So you buy your upgrades and whatnot. So number 7 is Dungeon Fighter Online, which came out in 2005 and has made $13.4 billion gross.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just crazy how, and this one is an MMORPG. So that's.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Number 6, and this is the one that surprised me the most, and you'll hear why in a second. Number 6 on the list is Space Invaders.
What?
And we're only talking the one Space Invaders game that came out in 1978. That's it. There was one Space Invaders in 78. $13.9 billion as of 2017, not counting anything beyond that. One game, $13.9 billion. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm flabbergasted on that one.
Shocked. That one shocked me. And I'm like, wow. I was like, because obviously if I was going to name any arcade game, I would pick Pac-Man, right? I would think Pac-Man would be it. But Pac-Man's got multiple games.
Right.
Space Invaders exists on its own. So $13.9 billion off of one game.
One game.
Yeah. That's just a testament to just how amazing Space Invaders has endured over the last, where are we at now? 42 years?
42 years.
42 years. Yeah, because it's as old as us. It came out the year we were born.
Yep.
God, we're old. All right. That was number 6, right? So number 5, Pac-Man, came out in 1980. The entire franchise, $14.1 billion as of 2016. So it's obviously made more since then. And Pac-Man by itself, the original, has grossed $12.8 billion on its own. Miss Pac-Man, which I thought would have made more than what it's listed here as, at $1.2 billion. Because to me, Miss Pac-Man is better than the regular Pac-Man. So, That's number 5. Number 4, in 2006, the Wii series. And when they're talking about the Wii series, they're talking about Wii Sports and Wii Fit and all those types of games, the ones that were called Wii This.
Yep.
And the Wii was super popular. It was super popular all across the board for children and adults. $14.8 billion gross.
Wow.
From 2006 on. So yeah, people had a thing for, simulation games, and, you got to stand on the board and you got to actually interact with it. So the Wii series was a very big deal. Now, top 3. All right. I'm sure you're going to know 2 of them. Well, maybe all. You'll know all 3, but number 3, Call of Duty from 2003, $18.1 billion.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Across all of them, of course, but still, first-person shooter, the most lucrative first-person shooter game out there. You can't get bigger than Call of Duty.
Not for me.
Yeah, no, same here. I mean, look, we've all got our preferences. Yep. Number 2, debuting in 1996, Pokemon.
Yeah,
of course. Estimated $19.5 billion gross in video game sales. And of those, 13.8 was console specific, and then about 4.8 was mobile, and mobile being probably Pokemon Go from 2016 to 2019. So Pokemon Go, since it came out in 2016, has made almost $5 billion. That's insane.
Yeah.
And also it just shows the power of Pokemon. And Sword and Shield, which just came out on the Switch last year, right, is approaching $1 billion on its own.
Wow.
Yeah, those Pokemon games. And at number 1, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised at number 1. We're talking about the Mario Brothers series, which started in 1981 with Mario Brothers. Now, Pokemon, $19.5 billion in video game sales gross. Mario, $32.4 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, that includes all Mario games, not just Super Mario, but Mario Kart, Mario Party. Right. Like, you throw them all in there, but you still get $32.4 billion in sales just from one plumber.
Wow. An Italian plumber at that.
Actually insane. Now, one thing that I did want to mention, and this is really, really interesting, and just the power of merchandise that people seem to, people don't understand just how powerful merchandise sales can be. I found another list with the top 50 highest grossing franchises, and I just wanted to jump up to numbers 1 and 2 because this includes merchandise sales. And when you include merchandise sales, Mario is number 2, right? With whatever amount. Pokemon jumps from 19 billion in sales just for video games, 19.5 billion in video games. When you include merchandise, $90 billion.
Wow.
That means $70 billion in merchandise.
That's insane.
That is insane. And that's the reason why Pokemon is still around. That's why we're getting a new Pokemon Snap for Switch.
Yep.
I mean, it's just just seeing that number, and I'm like, and I've worked in the entertainment industry on the merchandise side, so I have a little bit of an understanding of the power of merch, but this is just, out of this world.
Yeah.
And that is the top 10 list of highest grossing video game franchises. So nothing surprising at the top there for me. Mario, to me, was going to be the number 1. I couldn't think of anything else. So I think that will about wrap it up for us this week. I want to thank Rich. Thank you so much for coming out and stepping in for Larry.
Always.
I'm sure Larry's going to regret missing this episode because I'm sure he would have loved to talk about this stuff. Obviously, you're always welcome to come back again.
Anytime.
Yep. And then for everybody listening and watching, you can catch the Retro Gamers on Facebook, facebook.com/Retro Gamers Podcast. You can get us on Instagram at Retro Gamers Podcast, Twitter at Retro Gamers Pod. You can watch us on YouTube at the Retro Gamers Podcast. You can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can email us if you want to send us a special hello or message or comment, or if you have a suggestion for our show. we are happy to take them. So just email us at email@theretrogamers.com. Rich, have a very wonderful week. I'm sure I will see you online.
Yep.
And for everybody else, we will catch you here next week on the Retro Gamers Podcast.